Okay, take two. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel. Today, we are doing my January wrap-up and February TBR. This is the second time I am filming this because I kept getting distracted and tripping over my words. Let's hope I don't do that. So we're going to start with my January wrap-up first. I read a total of 8 books. Who the fuck am I? And let's get started. So really, one of the reasons I read 8 books is because some of them were children's books. The first book I read in the year of our Lord 2021 was A Scarf for Keiko by Anne Malaspina, I think. And this takes place around the time of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and this little boy goes to school with a Japanese-American girl named Keiko. And one day she is sent off to one of the internment camps. Is that what that word is? Internment camps. That's how you pronounce it. And he ponders that for a while. So as the title suggests, he's making a scarf for her. It's a children's book. The title is the spoiler. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because it explains the situation well enough for kids to understand, and plus I don't see a lot of books about this topic. Because one thing I've noticed from my history classes over the years is people in this country like to pretend this part of American history never happened. Like, a lot of people don't want to talk about the fact we had internment camps. So I think it is important to introduce kids to this section because I truly don't believe in hiding history, because how are you going to learn if you hide it? If you want like a good introduction to the topic for kids, I think this is the book to do it. And it's a relatively new book too. So the next book I read is also a children's book, and it has a very long title. So it is The Book Rescuer: How a Mensch from Massachusetts Saved Yiddish Literature for Generations to Come by Sue Macy. And the contributor is Stacy Ernest. So this is about a man who grew up Jewish, and he decided to start saving Yiddish books because a lot of them were disappearing, especially after World War II. And he collected them and put them all in the archive, and he has like thousands. And this is another book I gave 4 out of 5 stars because, again, it's a children's book. It explained the situation really well for kids, and I learned a lot from it too, and it was just an enjoyable read. So then the third book I read was actually an audiobook from my library, and it also has a very long title. It is White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. This is nonfiction, and I have a very hard time like explaining my opinions on nonfiction books. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But Robin DiAngelo is a sociologist, and she is a white woman telling us about racism. My thing going into this book, because I put on hold 2 books from the library. It was this one and How to Be an Anti-Racist. And the only reason I got to this one first is because it came to me first, because How to Be an Anti-Racist has a very long line right now, or had, because I currently have the book, but we'll get there. I was wondering how this book would be understood just because it is a white woman explaining racism. I was reading the reviews for this book, and I saw that a black woman did bring that up. She mentioned that everything this woman said in the book is what black people have been saying for years, which I do agree with, because while listening to this, I was like, okay, like, I've had this discourse before, I knew about this, which I know, like, saying that puts me on a high horse. The stuff that Robin DiAngelo talks about, I have seen over the years, going back from middle school, and of course high school, because I went to a very, very large high school. And in college it continued, and of course today still on Twitter people are still talking about these things. So she brought up a lot of things like that were already introduced to me and things I do wonder about. One thing though that I was wondering, because we were like 70% of the way into this book, and like I said, she's a white woman, and another point she made is that no matter who you are, you could be the most racist white person, but you could also be the most liberal or most progressive white person. No matter who you are as a white person, you are still taking part in, how did she word this? I'm just like scared to get this wrong. But you are still taking part in racism just because the way our society is structured. But if that was one of her points, that all like white people are a part of this, I was wondering why she wasn't bringing up anything from her personal life, like anything anything racist she might have done on accident. But she eventually does. She does have like her own personal story, and she like says like it wasn't purposeful, but that doesn't mean what I said was okay. And then like how they talked about it, how they moved on, well not moved on, but how they worked from it, I should say. So I was like happy to see that too, because I was wondering, will she bring in anecdotes from her own like personal experience? But she did, and I did quite enjoy this book. So I would actually consider this more of like a beginner's guide to to racism, just because so many of the things are like discourses I personally have seen already. But yeah, it was a very interesting book, and I'm gonna move on because I can't talk about nonfiction to save my life. Like, I'm trying to put my thoughts into words for this book, but I didn't write them out, which is probably fucking me over right now, but I still recommend it. Alright, so another reason I was able to read 8 books this month is because of the manga I was reading. I read 3 volumes of manga. So the first one I read was Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 1 by Sui Ishida. This is volume 1 of the sequel series to Tokyo Ghoul, which I read all of. I read all of Tokyo Ghoul last year in 2020. It's the sequel series, so I don't know how to talk about this. But the original series is about a boy named Kaneki who wants to go on a date. He gets attacked by a ghoul, because ghouls are running amok in Tokyo, and ghouls eat people, and that's why they're so scary. But he gets attacked by one, and then later has an organ transplant from that ghoul's body, and it turns him into a half-human, half-ghoul creature, and he spends the rest of the series contemplating that and who he is as a person. So the first volume of this is a brand new arc, obviously, and how do you talk about it? The original series, I guess a good way to summarize this is the original series focuses on the ghouls, whereas this one is mostly focusing on the CCG, which is the company that kills the ghouls. This specific volume I gave 3.75 stars, and that's only because during like the first few chapters I wasn't really feeling it. It was kind of slow. A lot of the old characters didn't come back right away. So it was just an info dump of new characters, and like I'm 4 volumes in already, and it's still like very overwhelming whenever they say a new name, because I'm like, who is that? What do they look like? So it was like 3 stars when I first started reading it, but then the last chapter happened and it was a cliffhanger, so I upped it to 3.75 stars. You know, I'm still excited to continue on. It's just a very slow start so far. And I'm also reading this while Olivia Savannah over at Olivia's Catastrophe is watching the anime, so it's been really fun like comparing the show with the manga, and because we're about like at the same part almost, and I've never had like discussions like this about books before, so it's been a very fun time so far. So then the next book I finished is Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer, which is basically just gender-bent Twilight. Bella is now Beau, Edward is now Edith. It's a grand old time. And wow, how do I talk about this book? I went into this thinking not only was it gender bent, but the personalities would also be switched. Like I was thinking the vampire would be female with Bella's personality, while the human was, you know, male with Edward's. But it was very much Beau had Bella's personality and Edith had Edward's. Y'all, it was word for word the original book, just different pronouns. Only Charlie and Renee stayed the same. And this book is better written, I will say. Part of me still like this better than the original Twilight, which I know is kind of blasphemous because a lot of the reviews of this book is saying like what's the point of it, which I do kind of agree with. Like as much as I kind of like it better, it was still like pointless. Like why? But I don't know, like Edward's personality hits different when it's a girl, and same thing with Bella's personality. Like it hit different reading it from a guy's perspective. I thought their relationship was like cuter than Edward and Bella's. It's like I don't even know what I'm saying, y'all. It's because like I shipped Beau and Edith more than I ship Bella and Edward, even though they're the same people. So I don't know where that came from, but it's probably because Beau and Edith did have cuter moments than Bella and Edward did. I like the concept better. So it's not that I like the book better, it's just that I like the concept better. Because we don't have enough book where the female is the vampire luring in her male human, and I want to see books from that perspective more. And I actually want more on Edith and Beau because this ending was different than the original Twilight, and I was sad to put the book down because I liked them. I like Edith a lot better than Edward, because I know Stephanie Meyer is like, oh hey, I purposely made Bella bland so like anyone could put themselves in her shoes, which I'm assuming is why Beau was bland as well for the same reason. But I was imagining myself as Edith, because like why would I be a bland ass human when I could be a mind-reading vampire luring in men? I'm just saying. But at the end of the day, I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars because, you know, I was still reading word for word another book. So at times it dragged because I knew what was going to happen. Also, Stephanie Meyer has a weird thing with names. She either picked the most bizarre names or the most obviously gender bent. Jasper became Jessamine, but then Tyler became Taylor. Like stuff like that. Other things I did appreciate about this book though, there were a few things Beau did that were minorly different than Bella that I appreciated. And like I said, they just had cuter moments. Like when they would hold hands, I was like, oh, this is so cute. Like it's so simple, but so cute because we're simping men for doing the bare minimum here. So the next book I read was Junie B. First Grader by Barbara Park. So this was a reread because I decided in 2021, every month I'm going to reread a book I had to read in school. and January was for first grade. And by that I just mean like we all sat on the carpet as the teacher read a book to us, and this was the book she read. I remember my teacher reading this on the first day of first grade, and it was cute. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it did its job. I remember absolutely loving Junie B. Jones back in school. I would read it all the time. And like the plot of this is not only is she starting first grade, but she's also getting glasses, which, you know, like, relatable. What else is there to say about a Junie B. Jones book other than it made me happy and nostalgic? Then I read Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 2 by Sui Ishida. Again, can't really talk about it, but I did give, which one did I give this? I did give this one 4 out of 5 stars. The beginning was kind of slow, but then the ending picked up a lot, like the last half of it, and it ended with this character who was new, but not really, and I was screaming at like 1:45 in the morning, and I'm like messaging Olivia's fan, and I'm like, oh my god, this just happened! So it was very, very exciting, and I don't want to spoil it, so we're going to move on to the last book I read in January, which was Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 3. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars because it was very, very action-packed. The action never stopped. The mental anguish never stopped, and I am here for a certain character's mental anguish. And there's just so many important plot points that were introduced to us, and it made me excited to start the next volume. So that's it for my January reads, and we're going to move on to my February TBR, and I have about, how many books do I have on this? I have 6 books to talk about, do I? 7 books to talk about. So the first book I'm already 2 pages in, but it's Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. This is Twilight and Edward's point of view. Yes, I'm well aware I am reading Twilight. I might as well be reading Twilight for the 4th time of my life, because I read the first book back when I was 12, then I recently reread Twilight, then there was Life and Death, then there's this one. And let me tell you, y'all, I just said about Tokyo Ghoul, I love the mental anguish of a certain character, right? I do not love the mental anguish of Edward Cullen. This dude, I know this is a TBR, so I don't want to like go on a full rant, but this dude needs some fucking therapy. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I do want to continue this book. I'm determined to finish it. It's a drag. This book is a fucking drag. But I'm determined to finish it in February. And I have about 450 pages left, so the mission is a go. Another book I'm listening to right now, because I'm listening to it on audio, is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. Again, this is another book about racism, but this was actually written by a black man, and he narrates the audiobook, which I think is really cool, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So this book I would not consider like for beginners of the discourse, just because he writes this book rightfully assuming you know the basics already. Like, he assumes his audience knows the basics already, so he's actually introducing new concepts and concepts I have never heard of, and I don't want to get into too much detail until I finish the book and I could talk about it in a wrap-up. But this is a very interesting listen to. I listen to my audiobooks on my walk to work because it's a 50-minute walk, and I'm about halfway through it, and I'm vastly enjoying it so far. So for my school rereads, February is the month of 2nd grade, and I want to read Flat Stanley by a name I don't even remember. I do remember reading Flat Stanley. I think it was like a mixture of 1st and 2nd grade because I had the same teacher for 1st and 2nd grade, so those memories often kind of blend. But she read the books both years, so I just kind of, all the books are on hold right now, so I'm waiting for whatever book comes first to read. I'm hoping it's going to be the first book because that's the one I remember enjoying the most out of all of them, but we shall see. So the next book I want to get to is Origin by Dan Brown. This is book number 5 in the Robert Langdon series. I've owned this book for like 3 years now, and I want it read. I have a lot of fun with the Robert Langdon series because, okay, let's be serious here. Dan Brown is not winning awards for his writing anytime soon. Like, his writing is not good, his writing style. But the topics he talks about are so fun to read that I could put aside the bad writing. And he just brings in such interesting concepts from religion. I am all for religious controversies. That's why I read Dan Brown's books, because he brings in those things, and it's so fun. I have no idea what this one's about, but I will get to that when I read the book. And of course, Tokyo Ghoul Re is also on the TBR. I have already read volume 4, and I have 5, 6, and 7 planned because of like, I want to read them on Mondays for like Manga Monday. But my life is not as together as I thought it would be, so I keep forgetting and have to like plan around that, but we shall see. As long as I get to volume 7, I'll be happy. And that is it for this video. Apparently I was not ready to film today because I keep tripping over my words, but we love to see it. Why am I not tripping over my words? If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm gonna peace out, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao a tutti.